floral arrangements from the Royal Canterlot Gardens.
As seen in The Best Night Ever, written by Amy Keating Rogers.
Chocolate eclairs made by Gustave Legrand.
That Griffin Baker introduced to us in Mystery on the Friendship Express, also by Amy Keating Rogers.
A selection of crystals from the Crystal Empire.
Ah, dude, you're breaking the flow. Generic items from a generic kingdom. Moving on.
Freshly picked cherries from Cherry Jubilee's farm, separated red from yellow.
Episode, Rogers, Amy Keating, writing! And what a surprise! This here episode is written by Amy Keating Rogers. I'm drawing attention to this because while I believe in the death of the author, this was Rogers' last episode before moving on to become a full-time writer for Disney. So this was sort of a victory lap, in the form of the best dang Applejack episode in the series. Let's talk about the fun, shall we?
Wow, Applejack! Are you sure you've never managed a concert before?
Wait, what are you doing?
Well, it turns out doing up a concert's the same as setting up a rodeo.
You're not on the Exposition Express right now. Why are you messing with the natural order?
And thanks to Pinky's Connections organizing the Ponypalooza rock concert.
Cross-media continuity. Nope, wait. This is messing with me too much. The whole point of this exposition dump is twofold. It both establishes Applejack's stake in the upcoming charity concert and introduces the lead attraction. However, it's not the subtlest storytelling. A more justifiable part of exposition comes from Pinky's announcement.
I have managed to book the biggest pony pop star in all of Equestria. Sapphire Shores is merely the second biggest pony pop star in Equestria.
Fame is so fickle. But trapdoors are at a discount. We're introduced to the newest star in Equestria, Countess Come-Eat Tuna.
Countess Coloratura!
Right, Countess Color a Turtle.
Countess Coloratura.
But Applejack recalls a filly by that same name from her childhood, and this is where more overt exposition feels natural. Basically, if a nugget of info is known to all the cast, then the best way to fill in the audience would be through action rather than words. If it's a new bit of info, then I think it's okay to gather everyone around for some overt story time.
Wouldn't it just be the funniest thing if that Coloratura and this Coloratura were the same Coloratura?
One terrifying expression later, I'll just add that to the pile, we have Countess Coco Cabana's arrival. I do love the rapid shifts in equestrian technology. It's somehow less jarring than how Applejack views her friends change. And here is what really sells this episode as Applejack's best. In your average Applejack-centered story, she's presented as being unreasonably stubborn or acting some other extreme and needs to stop. Problem is that because Applejack is often the group's even keel, these shifts feel very forced. It doesn't help that, as a citizen closely tied to Ponyville itself, she's rarely vulnerable because she's always close to her base. The Countess Copper Tundra is a unique opportunity. Her past connection with Applejack creates a dissonance, but because she's from beyond Ponyville, there isn't a lot of grounding.
Sometimes it's hard to see our friends change.
So suddenly Applejack has to wrestle with whether she should accept who her friend has become, or if she should resist this change to help restore that same friend. A lot of this hinges on Countess Couple Siesta's practice, and even then, it's rarity arguing for acceptance.
Creating all those elements is a lot of work, and Countess Coloratura's performance wouldn't exist without them.
She's not wrong. All of this, the lighting, the choreography, even the auto-tune spell, requires practice, skill, and timing. And the Countess is an excellent singer, thanks to the vocal talents of guest star Lena Hall. No one could accuse this performance of half measures. Yet Rarity often has a weakness. Many times we've seen her prioritize form over function, which is what this performance does. All of this music, clothing, and spectacle is meant to distract from the lead performer. There's one important aspect to the song, its finale.
I'm just a pony, I am the Countess.
Okay, but who is the Countess? The song doesn't say anything. In fact, it's about what's around her. Basically, she's saying, I'm more than you. It's an appeal to the ego. Fans aren't supposed to identify with her. They're supposed to project themselves onto that stage. And with so much distraction and attitude in the performance, you could swap just about any pony into that costume and make them the Countess. Huh. I guess some would take to it better than others. Back to Applejack. She's grounded in a different era. I'm borrowing from Warren Sussman, a cultural historian who defined two eras, the culture of character and the culture of personality. Cultural mindsets from before and after the American industrialization that focused their emphasis on either the private life or public perception. How did Sussman mark this shift? By doing a word search of self-help guides or advice manuals. Within the culture of character, the key words were citizenship, duty, work, golden deeds, honor, reputation, morals, manners, and integrity. After the shift to a more industrial America, the books emphasized different words: magnetic, fascinating, stunning, attractive, glowing, dominant, forceful, and energetic. I see this contrast expressed by both characters. Yet Applejack doesn't immediately declare Countess Cover a Tremor wrong. Instead, she observes. She's looking for the Countess's character and sees it when few others are watching.
My favorite part of any event is meeting with the school ponies.
And here's where Applejack's friend and the Countess part ways. The pony who wears that outfit wants to engage with her audience and especially encourage the young. But on stage, she's singing about what's around her and how she's different or better than they. This isn't a case of fame is bad, but this fame is asking her to be someone she's not. And Applejack is one of the few with just enough insight to see it. So who can we blame for this dissonance? Why, her manager.
Oh, thank you, Sven-Gallop.
There's a lot to unpack in just a name. Sven-Gallop is based on Svengali, the villain from Georges du Maurier's 1895 novel, Trilby. Svengali has become a term synonymous with domination and manipulation. The term even found its way into brony projects before this episode aired.
I warned you not to Svengali your opponent's quack!
Oh, but...
Hit the hole, Jigglebones!
There's also a fun story behind the story. Rogers actually tweeted a photo of her notebook and all the conceptual names. I don't know how subtle this episode would have been if the stallion had been named Greedy. But Megan McCarthy said, make it a Svengali type. And so Rogers exchanged ideas with her husband, and as a result, we have this character. One of the best results of this process is that they call back to Trilby without relying upon its plot points. In the novel, Svengali hypnotized the lead heroine from a tone-deaf model and laundress into a singing sensation diva, La Svengali. If this episode had followed this idea with Sven-Gallop hypnotizing his star, it would have lost a lot of meaning. No, Sven-Gallop's influence comes from a silver tongue and his own persona as Countess Copia-Tuba's friend. All praise and very subtle reminders about her dependence.
Of course, I was the one that started calling you Countess.
Gotta say, we might have a pony who's worse than the Flim Flam brothers. Those two might try to swindle you out of money and even your home, but this guy is trying to steal a mare's entire sense of self. Of course, you could tell this guy was trouble the minute he literally walked over Pinkie Pie.
Clear the way! Step back!
Why is he doing this? Because he's decided that the best way to live the sweet life is to create a puppet and reap the rewards via tour riders. And before you can say silver, you reflective Razorbill. What's a tour rider? I'll tell you. A tour rider is a condition added to a contract between a performer and venue. Though it's not a deal breaker, it's an important part of negotiation so that the artist feels like they're not being taken advantage. There's some good stories behind this, as you can find on thesmokinggun.com/backstage. The most infamous tour rider condition comes from Van Halen, who stipulated that there had to be a bowl of M&Ms with all the brown ones removed. Both Van Halen and talent buyer Jack McFadden said that this was a test to see how well the venue organizers could read the contract. If they could supply something so minute, then there was a good bet they'd put the same effort into technical specs and safety requirements. Though sometimes it really is just a celebrity being a diva.
I want top-of-the-line Appaloosan oats. Bring me 500 pre-peeled, pre-cored apples, and I want those things in 24 hours.
And Applejack tries to bring these concerns to her friend. Here's where the first real hurdle arises. As is so true of the culture of personality, it's difficult to convey someone's true character when they put so much energy into a false presentation. Countess Can't Spot a Booger has only known him for praise.
Sven-Gallop works very hard as my manager, AJ, so if he needs some things when we're on the road, I don't see anything wrong with that.
Here's where Applejack's well-known flaw enters the picture. I'm glad this episode doesn't make her stubbornness the central focus, but it is a primary thing working against her. Most of the best main 6 stories feature them trying to achieve a goal while being sabotaged by their own foibles. They have to overcome themselves to achieve success. That doesn't often happen with Applejack, since I think it's hard to give her a goal beyond her current content lifestyle. So when Countess Come Get an Umbrella pushes back, the whole thing blows up in Applejack's face.
Jealous of what? A pony who hides behind a veil so thick she can't see when some pony's using her?
And while we may have been friends when we were young, we have clearly gone in different directions.
So here's the conflict again. Applejack could accept that, could write her former friend off at no loss to herself, and in fact it might benefit the concert. Yet the stubbornness that is often her failing becomes a strength. Applejack doesn't give up on others. Given a little time and distance, she both figures out how to approach the Countess and propose a plan.
Do exactly what I say. We'll see if that Sven-Gallop truly has your best interests at heart.
That plan involves lying. Yes, honest Applejack can encourage a lie if it's in service to a higher goal. That's adding a new dynamic compared to the idea that she is simply incapable of lying.
You know the drill. Deliver, or the diva ditches your fifth carry.
So that's how you've been managing things?
And with that, Sven-Gallop's influence is almost gone, except for one parting shot.
That's a joke. I made you some pony. What can you even do without me?
I suppose he's getting off easier than Sven-Galli, who got taken out of the story by a heart attack. And we will see him as a background piece in Las Pegasus. Likely he's seeking out new talent with which he can construct a new Countess persona. But that comes later, in the here and now. Open season, jerk store!
Oh my gosh, Rarity. Sven-Gallop's right. This is gonna be a disaster!
This too is a callback to Trilby, whose final performance without Sven-Galli's influence was horrific and tragic. Yet unlike the tone-deaf Trilby, Countess Can't Stop a True Blue is a talented singer, and so it's up to AJ to remind her of who she truly is. Which means the show has to undergo some changes. So we'll see you, Razzle, Dazzle, Glitz, Chin Up Glam. It was so nice of the Countess to list them off during the song. Aw, AJ. Contrary to my usual trolling, this is not an attempt to embarrass. You did the right thing. It's just that the right thing doesn't always benefit all. Joseph Campbell once said, no matter what good you do, it's evil for someone. And I'm afraid the dancers were part of the crossfire. You didn't set out to sabotage any pony, but it's okay to acknowledge that they're going to have to work elsewhere. Because thanks to Applejack's guidance, the Countess is now rah-rah once again with a new style, which somehow features an orchestra that AJ could hire and organize in the span of an afternoon. I can't tell if this is Equestria's usual hyper-quick resolution, or if Pinkie Pie is demonstrating an exceptional shadow puppet display. I've gotten to talk with fellow fans about this and understand why to many, the Countess's music was more enjoyable than Rah-Rah's. It was energetic and swift, filled with attitude and demanded attention. By contrast, Rah-Rah's piano was more mellow, quiet, and lower energy. Because of this, I feel like the celebration she receives at the concert is very idealized. If set in the real world, Rah-Rah would have had to face a heavy amount of criticism and a shrinking fan base. That's not to say that this would be the wrong move, but it would be a natural consequence of changing her presentation. Yet I prefer this song because of the message. While the Countess was a false image saying, I'm more than you, Rah-Rah's song celebrates her own strength and encourages the same in her audience. It's not as loud or demanding as before because sincerity doesn't have to demand attention. Don't mistake, Rah-Rah is still working within the culture of personality. She can still be magnetic and fascinating and attractive and so forth, but she doesn't have to lie about who she is. All that's left to learn is which school pony got to perform alongside Rah-Rah. Surprise, surprise, it's Applejack's sister and her friends.
Nepotism. Sometimes it rewards the good as well.
Thus concludes the main attraction, and I really love it. It's the best episode for Applejack because it shows her determination both as a hindrance but also a motivator to effect positive change. It presents a unique dilemma as she has to weigh the past against the present and observe rather than rush to a judgment. And it demonstrates that Applejack can bend her policy about honesty if she truly believes that it will do more good than harm. Plus, the vocal talents of Lena Hall are a treat, and Rah-Rah is an enjoyable character. We don't get to learn a lot about her, but we can sympathize. I wish we could have a follow-up story in either the show or comics, by which you can see how she's doing. I also wish that Sven-Gallop could have gotten more of a comeuppance for being so awful. But then, that's where I can enjoy at least a little autonomy. Brutality. I'm Silver-Quill. Thanks for watching.